elections translate into democratic gains. I say this because Kenya, we had our last election in 2022. We all know President Ruto won this election on a popular hustler ticket that resonated with many Kenyans because of the economic situation that we faced as a country. However, very quickly things went south very fast, and I'm just happy that some of the speakers this morning have highlighted on the issues that are belittling our country. Does democracy bear the fruit? There was so much hope when President Ruto came into power because the questions of unemployment, questions of improving healthcare and the education system as well. But very fast, Kenyans realized that we were not receiving what was promised in the very beautiful manifesto. And what I say, because we have already moved past that election, is that there are questions that Kenyans are asking each other. Those questions that we should not just look at democracy as a process through which we elect leaders into office, but are they delivering what they promise? And so in my reflection, we know what has happened in Kenya, the protests that have been very recent. I don't want to go into so much in my opening remarks. But I see an awakening in Kenyans, in the youth, that we can question and use what is in our laws to correct where we felt that we have done mistakes. We have already impeached our deputy president. One governor has already been impeached. One is on the line. And people are awakened and they are questioning their leaders. And so I still have hope. I believe I'm in Bishop Kuka's camp that democracy is fragile. I don't think Africa, or speaking for Kenya, we are at that level because what happened in the Gen Z-led protests in beginning last year, 2024, the youth were able to leverage on technology, use social media, gather themselves, bring up conversations, and organize the protests. The youth do not have a leader. They term themselves as leaderless. They term themselves as tribeless. Being naughty, they say they are also braless. So nothing is limiting them, so to speak. And so that fact that they do not have this one person at the front that is leading them, then it makes it a little bit difficult for them to have this collective action or a bargaining field, so to speak. What is happening currently is now we have seen a bit of calm in terms of those conversations. The few who are at the front, of course, there was a bit of intimidation through police abductions. I think you saw what followed the protests. And so that is the way, in my view, the government quelled the situation, that deflate these groupings and let's have a bit of quiet, because President Ruto is asking for quiet and calmness so that he can deliver what they are asking. And so to say that maybe through these kinds of protests we can see a change of government, I don't think it's happening in Kenya because the constant conversation that we're having as Kenyans is we will ask the questions, we will keep putting the pressure on our leaders, we want accountability, and Kenyans are saying we are waiting for 2027. We are waiting for the next election to demonstrate what we keep telling you every day on the social media platforms. So I think for us, that was really something that was not anticipated. We didn't think it will get to the youth breaking into parliament and everybody running helter-skelter for their lives in parliament. But it sent a message. It sent a message that young people need to be heard, that there is public participation entrenched in our laws, in the Constitution, but is it for paper or is it an actual public participation? Because what led us to get there is that we were not being heard. The young people of Kenya were not being heard. Kenyans, there is no employment and we are highly taxed. And the question that Kenyans were putting to their leaders, who are members of parliament, as they were first with debating on the bill, is tell the president that this is what we are suffering from. However, none of that happened. I think people were paid off and they passed the bill irregardless, and that triggered something that revolted into violence.
In my opinion, a highly Western rhetoric that has been held, which is that democracy is a luxury for Africans, and suggests that we are not able to live out and implement the ideals of democracy as it is, and rebuild the structures or live by the rules that democracy come with. And I think that that's what informs some of that argument. When we look at, oh, by the way, I was supposed to mention, I want to specify that I am from the Democratic Republic of Cameroon, which is also one of, the countries that have been under the radar for quite a while as to the way it is practicing its democracy, and which highlights what I mentioned earlier about the narrowing down of democratic governance to electoralism. And we'll find what we have observed is a situation where many leaders, they have the means to access power. They have the power to access power, but they lack the power to give up power. And these are all the reasons why people, of course, earlier on he was talking about the issue of democratic dividends, the popularity of Traore and all of that, which points to the citizens' legitimate impatience with the promise of democracy and the multiple dimensions, the multidimensional issues of credibility that it now evokes. But when we narrow it down to the definition, which His Excellency President Obasanjo mentioned earlier when he was doing his presentation, as the government for the people, government of the people, for the people, by the people, are we able to meet these criteria? Then we would not be talking about whether or not it is ideal for Africans, because it really boils down to these three things, and moving away from a situation where we have a government that is not by the people or for the people. And so moving forward, it is really important, like, unless we start thinking, going back to the place where democracy truly belongs to its people, then we would sadly live to see the further disintegration of these ideals and weakening of the institutions. So do we, as Africans, need to rethink our own democracy, go back to the traditional systems that it pre-existed this? When you dig into history, I mean, and there are a lot of scholars who may have different opinions about this, but the birthplace of democracy is still, subject to debate. And in my opinion, I would say it's right here on the continent. And so maybe other people adopted it and came up with different variations of it. And the different sort of hybridization of forms of democracies that we're seeing, which has led us to start asking whether we need our own form of democracy. It is more, in my opinion, a reflection of the failed promises, the failed promises and the different corruptions that have infiltrated the process versus the need for it or our ability to implement the ideals. That's what I can say to that.
Okay, thank you. Did you want to add something, Your Excellency? I see you. Yeah.
Yes. I think you're answering the question,
Thank you, Africa. Mama Africa. Oh, yeah. You make Africa great. Thank you, Africa. Thank you, Africa.